It's not just that they were executed. It's not just that their order was dismantled. It's that they vanished utterly and without a trace from the very institution sworn to record everything. These weren't minor figures. These were grand preceptors, seneschals, regional masters. And yet, in the official archives of the Church, nothing. No trials, no confessions, no deaths, not even their names. It's as if they were never born, never served, never arrested. How do entire lives vanish from God's own paper trail? Let's take a breath, slow everything down. Because what follows isn't some fevered conspiracy, it's colder than that. A trail of paper ink and silence spanning continents and centuries. The Knights Templar warrior monks of the Crusades, guardians of Christendom's treasure routes and symbols of unshakable discipline. When King Philip IV of France ordered their sudden arrest in 1307, the Church hesitated, then followed suit. What began as a political grab soon became a purge. The order was dissolved. Assets were seized. Trials were held. Many were tortured. A few were burned. And yet, something doesn't sit right. In dusty archives across Europe, in Rome, in Avignon, and London, we find thousands of records. But not the ones we need most. Not the ones about them, the key leaders who were supposed to guide the order, defend it, or face the Inquisition with honor. They're not there. They're not anywhere. We know who should be listed. We have names from before the arrests. We know who ran the commanderies, who held the seals, who controlled the land. And still these men simply vanish the moment things turn dark. This isn't about hidden treasure or secret bloodlines. This is about something stranger. Quiet erasure. A cleansing not of flesh, but of memory. An institutional forgetting. Before we venture further into the shadows, take a moment to subscribe so you never miss a secret that history has tried to forget. You begin by picturing parchment, not the rolled scrolls of fairy tales, but heavy folios bound in cracked leather, inked with the slow, precise Latin of bureaucrats. These were the ledgers of Christendom, the archives of popes, bishops, priors, and abbots. And if a man led a commandery of the Knights Templar, his name should appear not once but dozens of times. He was a landholder, a military officer, a spiritual figure, a financier. Yet for a strange few, the record is as silent as a tomb that was never filled. By the year 1300, the Templars were divided into a clear and formal hierarchy, with regional leaders spread across Europe. Each province, France, England, Aragon, Portugal, Apulia, Hungary, had a master. Beneath them, preceptors ruled over regional districts, and below them, the commanders who held castles, priories, and manors. Each was entrusted with a seal, a personal sigil, or badge used to validate documents. These men signed property charters, rental agreements, tithes, exchanges of grain and horses. In doing so, they left behind a paper trail that modern historians can follow across decades. At least, they should have. Let's take just one example. The preceptor of Aquitaine, a vital Templar hub, with commanderies hugging trade routes from the Atlantic coast to the Pyrenees. We know from a few scattered receipts and mentions in third-party letters that a knight named Ponce d'Arzac held the title around 1305. Yet when the arrests began 2 years later, there is no mention of his interrogation. No inventory of his property, no record of his fate. His seal, once pressed into wax with authority, vanishes from every register. The same applies to men like Robert de Monclar, believed to have been the master of Provence. He had overseen Templar affairs stretching from Marseille to the foothills of the Alps. Records from the late 1290s show him negotiating with Cistercian abbots and receiving shipments of wool. Then, nothing. It's as if the century turned and the earth swallowed him whole. This isn't the silence of the forgotten poor. These men weren't anonymous. They were high-ranking, appointed, trusted. Their roles involved daily contact with local church officials and royal notaries. So why do so many vanish at the precise moment they should become most visible? Some scholars argue that these disappearances are illusions, gaps in an incomplete archive. After all, the survival of medieval documentation is a game of chance. Fires, wars, damp basements, and lazy scribes have consumed untold manuscripts, and yet other records from this same period of minor knights of cooks and stable boys of horses sold for barley remain. The clerical hand that copied those names somehow forgot the men at the top. This contradiction leads to uncomfortable questions. One theory suggests that certain leaders were deliberately excluded from the arrest warrants circulated by Philip IV. While the king famously had hundreds of knights arrested on October 13, 1307, not every Templar in France was captured. Some escaped. Others may never have been sought. If those men held crucial secrets or damning knowledge about church finances, royal debts, or papal negotiations, their sudden disappearance may have been encouraged. Of course, even if they'd fled or been spared, they should have reappeared eventually. Monasteries kept records of burials. Bishops tracked penitent knights. Even secular lords documented former Templars entering their service. But for the vanished leaders, not even that exists. No deaths, no retirements, no quiet lives on forgotten farms. And then there's the matter of the seals themselves. Seals were sacred. When a Templar died or was removed, his seal was supposed to be defaced, scored, or broken to prevent forgery. Sometimes the damaged seals were preserved with notations explaining the destruction. But for the missing leaders, we have neither the seals nor the notes. Their symbols simply cease to appear as if the wax itself decided not to speak. This absence is beginning to form a pattern, one that's hard to ignore. Why would the Church, so obsessed with records, with absolutions, with control, allow certain names to vanish without annotation? A quiet possibility emerges: these men were not forgotten. They were erased. Could it be that some high-ranking Templars knew too much, that they represented factions or loyalties inconvenient to either the French crown